Welcome to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin. Today, we're not going to be doing an interview. We have a different style of episode for you. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, make sure you share it on social media. We're going to talk about how to help customers with cooling issues. Now, cooling issues can range from a minor, small leak to a situation where an engine overheats and it becomes a catastrophic engine failure. The parts technician can do a lot to help the customer, but the parts technician needs to be prepared to do more than just supply the customers with what they ask for. I'd like to walk you through a common scenario that happens in parts stores all over the country every day, and we're going to show you how to help a customer with a cooling issue so that they are able to fix the problem the right way the first time. So, imagine this. You're at the parts counter, and a customer comes in with a cooling issue and asks for a replacement part. The conversation may sound something like this. The parts technician, "Hey, how you doing?" Customer, "I've had better days. My truck broke down a few miles from here, and it looks like I need a cooling hose." So the customer that has walked through the door has a small fleet of dump trucks, and they do a lot of road construction work hauling gravel and asphalt. And they're a customer of this parts store, a regular customer. Now, in this situation where the truck has broken down a few miles from the parts store, the fleet owner has had to call out a mobile repair technician to go and diagnose and fix the problem. So the mobile mechanic has driven out to where the truck is broken down, and they've diagnosed the main problem as a torn cooling hose. This is the part the customer has asked for. But as a parts technician, we have to take a step back and see the bigger picture because it's not just a cooling issue. The customer has a broken down truck. That means that the load that either is being picked up or needs to be delivered is going to be late. It also means that there's probably a driver sitting on the roadside with the truck or maybe down the street having a coffee waiting for the truck to be repaired. And this is incurring extra labor charges, maybe overtime will have to be paid later in the day because of this delay. Then, of course, the fleet owner had to get that mobile mechanic, even if it's an employee of theirs, to go out, or if they had to hire a mobile mechanic, the cost is even more, to go and diagnose the problem. And then, of course, the fleet owner, they've had to stop what they're doing that they had planned to do today to go and fix this problem. So, this is where the parts technician must see the bigger picture. This is costing a lot of money. And the parts technician now has a choice. The parts technician can sell the part that the customer asked for and say, "Hope you have a better day." Or the parts technician can take the time to ask a few questions and help the customer buy all the things they need to fix the problem the right way the first time. I remember one of my parts managers always saying to me, "Sell them what they need, not what they ask for." So what does the customer need to solve this problem the right way the first time? Well, this is where good communication is absolutely essential. As a parts technician, we never want to assume that the mobile mechanic and the customer have made a complete list of everything that they need to fix the problem. Sometimes what happens is the mechanic makes an assumption or the fleet owner makes an assumption. As a parts technician, we don't want to also make assumptions because that just leads to miscommunication, and then there's a high probability that the customer won't get everything they need and they're going to be back at your store, or maybe worse, they go to a competitor. So the first question that you'd want to ask in this situation is, okay, you're working on the cooling system. Do you have enough extra coolant to make sure the system is topped up once the repair is done? Right? It's an obvious question, but it might be something that is overlooked. The customer can say, "No, I don't." Great. Throw in a couple jugs of coolant. Now, you can follow up by making sure that they also have everything they need to do the roadside repair. So in this situation, we know that they're fixing a torn coolant hose. So we've already asked about coolant, but what about clamps for the hose? What about supplies to clean up any of the mess on the road? Some states and provinces mandate that you can't leak oil or coolant on the ground and not clean it up. And then there's also the safety aspect. We know this truck is broken down on the side of the road. Do they have a triangle kit? Maybe they did, but maybe it got damaged or it's gone missing. So this is an opportunity for the parts technician to ask a few questions, sell the customer more things, which is good for the parts store, but ultimately this saves the customer money because they make one trip to you, they get everything they need, they get back to that mechanic, they give them all the supplies, the mechanic does the repair, the truck either goes back to the shop or is able to continue on and complete the work that was assigned to that truck and driver for that day. Now, a cooling issue has occurred, which means that there may be other cooling parts that may be needed to be replaced, not necessarily that day, but in the near future. So you may also want to ask about other parts that the customer may need. So for example, have they checked the thermostat? Have they checked the rad cap? Is there an underlying issue that led to this hose failing that needs to be addressed? And these things have to be checked before that customer leaves so that if there is something extra, the mechanic is able to double check, right? The customer can phone the mechanic, say, hey, did you check the thermostat? Did you check the rad cap? Did you check these other things? Now, the mechanic may say, yeah, I checked all that. It's all good. We don't need any of that. We're good. At least then we've served the customer well. But if the mechanic says, actually, just give me a moment, they go and they do a couple more checks. And lo and behold, there is another issue in this cooling system that needs to be fixed. And now you've just saved a second breakdown possibly later that day. So now the customer would be very happy with that. Another thing you might want to talk to the customer about is what happens if they fix the hose, top up the system, get the truck going again, and discover there's another leak. Now, it may be a wise idea for the customer to buy some stop leak to be able to limp the truck back to the repair shop and address the other issue. So that just might be one other thing that you might want to suggest that the customer buys from you while they're there at the store to save a second trip. Another thing that you might want to ask the customer about while they're there is, are there any belts that are frayed or damaged? Because right there, they're working on the front of the engine, they're working on the coolant hoses to the rad, they're looking at the belts. If there's a badly frayed belt there, maybe coolant got sprayed on it, maybe that belt's going to break anytime soon. That's just another well-placed question to help the customer to find out, okay, is there anything else I need before I go back and get this truck back on the road? Anything you can do to help the customer avoid further downtime, making multiple trips to the parts store, and avoiding a tow bill or a fine is going to be greatly appreciated by the customer. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. When repairing a diesel engine, it is essential to only use high-quality engine parts. AFA Industries manufactures OEM-quality complete in-frame kits, replacement engine parts, and seals and gaskets for diesel engines at great aftermarket prices. To learn more, go to afaindustries.com where you can request them to direct you to a local distributor. Check out afaindustries.com today. You want to continue to service the customer and to help them by making sure that they solve any other cooling issues that are discovered once the truck is back at the shop. So once the emergency repairs have been completed, there is this opportunity to provide more customer service by making sure that the customer addresses all of the root causes of the cooling issue and takes steps to make sure that other vehicles in the fleet that are of the same year, make, and model don't experience similar problems that lead to a roadside repair situation or unscheduled downtime. It's important that we help customers, use maintenance best practices. And, the repair technicians, they are professionally trained, we would hope, and that they would have this covered. But it's an opportunity for us to provide ongoing support. And it may be that they're so busy dealing with other things that they perhaps missed something. And this is an opportunity for us to really help. So it's no secret that it's important that fleets stay on top of regular maintenance so that they can avoid roadside repairs and unscheduled downtime as much as possible. But since this customer has had a cooling issue, it would be appropriate to follow up with the customer and make sure that they followed all of the maintenance best practices that are out there. So this is where the parts technician can phone maybe the next day and just ask a couple of questions. So the parts technician phones up the customer. Hey, I wanted to follow up with you to make sure that you got that truck with the cooling issue fixed. The customer says, yeah, I did. Thanks for making sure I had everything that I needed. It really saved me out there. The parts technician can respond, no problem. Have you had a chance to inspect the coolant for any contaminations like rust, dirt, oil, fuel, or grease while you were out there? Customer says, no, actually, we didn't. We were just so focused on getting the truck back on the road and getting that load delivered, I didn't even think to check for that. Parts technician can then say, well, your truck, it's got a Cummins ISX 15, so that needs to be changed every 200,000 miles roughly. So I'm not sure what the mileage of the truck is, but it is something that you probably want to do just when you get that truck back in the shop. Do you have enough coolant to do a full flush and change if you need it? You see, just a follow-up call, showing consideration, and then also recommending maintenance best practices. This is providing real customer service. Now, if you live in let's say the Midwest or the Northeast, or you're in Canada, another thing that you could talk to the customer about at that moment is winter's coming up. So when's the last time that they did their freeze level check with their coolant, right? So even if there's no contamination in the coolant, if they haven't changed the coolant in a while and they haven't done a freeze level check, their mixture may not be appropriate for the upcoming cold temperature. That's another thing that you could discuss with the customer right there. So the parts technician reminds the customer about that. Yeah, there's no contamination. We'll do that freeze level check later this week. In fact, we're going to do it on all of our trucks. So yeah, we're going to need some coolant. Let's make some arrangements for you to send us out a refill on our coolant tote. All right, and there you go. Parts technician's happy. They just got a sale. Customer is taking care of their trucks and is avoiding further issues. So you can see that by following up with just a few well-placed questions, the parts technician can take care of the customer and gets the opportunity to sell them more parts. Now, can we take it one step further? Well, we can, because there's additional cooling system parts that probably should be addressed. And this is an opportunity for an outside salesperson assigned to that customer to get involved. So the next step would be that the parts technician would let the outside salesperson that's assigned to service that fleet as let's say a sales account manager, let them know, hey, listen, our customer was in, they had a breakdown. We helped them get the truck back on the road. They've done some checks. We sold them a tote of coolant, but since they've had these problems, it's probably a good idea to talk to them about some of the other systems that need to be addressed to make sure that there aren't any other underlying issues with that cooling system. So the salesperson can then go in and talk to the customer and find out if there's any other parts they need, right? Have they inspected the fans and the shroud? What about the radiator? What's the condition of the radiator? What's the water pump like? The drive hub, the fan drive or the hubs, like what's the situation there, right? They changed the belts. They've changed the fan while they're in there. Did they check the fan clutch or the hub? Maybe since they're in that general area, the charge air cooler for trucks that operate in the Northeast or the Midwest or Canada, the shutters or winter fronts, block heaters, air conditioner condensers if it's the summertime or if it's in the warmer parts of the country. So you can see that by talking to the customer about these different things, we're not just trying to flog parts on them, but we're trying to make sure that we help them to solve the real problem, whatever that is, beyond just the symptom, the hose that ruptured and was leaking. And by doing so, now we're providing them with real customer service. So you want to make sure that they buy the parts from you. If they need any of those cooling system parts or related systems, you want to make sure that if they're going to buy those parts, they buy them from you. But really, at the end of the day, what's most important is that you're helping your customer to avoid additional roadside repairs and unscheduled downtime, which costs way, way more than the cost of the parts. So we can't emphasize that enough. Now, how do you identify the part numbers for all of these parts? Well, we recommend that you use an app called Diesel Parts. So depending on what the customer actually needs, you can use Diesel Parts to identify the part number of the item that you're looking for. So after logging in on your desktop by going to parts.diesellaptops.com, or if you go on the app on your Android or Apple device, you've downloaded the free app and now you've logged in, then you can go to what's called the component search found in the left-hand side of the website, or if you are on the app, then it's just by going to the menu. From there, you will select the cooling system. And then from there, you're going to look for the type of part that you're looking to identify. And then you can put in the year, make, model, and engine if that information is requested. And just like that, you're going to have a part number for the item that you're looking for. Now, most of this episode, we've been talking about things from the parts technician's perspective. They are there to serve the vehicle owner, the fleet, or the owner-operator. This next part is where to buy the parts if you are a vehicle owner or you're a small fleet and you want to find someone to get you the parts that you need. Let's say you're in that situation where you're broken down and you're not in an area that you're familiar with. How do you find a repair center or a parts place to go buy the parts? Well, you can simply visit heavydutypartsreport.com/buy-parts. And from there, if you enter your location, you're going to be redirected to HDA Truck Pride's location finder. They have over 750 part stores located across the US and Canada, and also over 450 repair locations. So they are there to serve you, and you can get access to all of their contact information and locations just by putting in where you are right now. So again, go to heavydutypartsreport.com/buy-parts. HDA Truck Pride is a proud supplier of various manufacturers of cooling system parts, manufacturers like Prestone and Recochem for fluids, and replacement parts from Reach Cooling and MEI Parts and other manufacturers. So they have high quality aftermarket replacement parts for you, and you can ask for those by name. So at the end of the day, parts technicians and salespeople selling heavy duty parts, they really want to help customers solve their issues. In our scenario today, a customer walks in asking for a coolant hose. It only is going to cost them a few dollars. Instead, the parts technician sells them what they need. In the end, the customer is thanking you because you sold them what they needed, not what they asked for, and that saved them time and money in the long run, getting that truck back on the road and able to do its job, which is to earn revenue for the vehicle owner or the fleet. You've been listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin. Visit heavydutypartsreport.com to follow the show for free by subscribing to the podcast player of your choice or on YouTube. You can also hear our broadcast on TNC Radio Live. And if you'd like to sign up to our email list, there is a spot for you to do so there as well. That way you'll be notified directly when we produce and publish new episodes. Thank you so much for listening. Would you like to buy any of the parts discussed on the Heavy Duty Parts Report? Head over to heavydutypartsreport.com/buy-parts today. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to subscribe to the Heavy Duty Parts Report YouTube channel and click here to watch another great episode.